I got him. Okay. Okay, we're good. Okay. Woo. Excuse me.
Here we go. Look at this.
Hi, how are you doing? Good.
And then you're on this one.
Okay. Go ahead. You're good. Hey.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take a seat. I'm Elliot Gerson, Executive Vice President of the Aspen Institute. I'm delighted to see you all here. I apologize for this pillar in the middle of the room. It is a bit of a challenge for those of you who are going to come and see other events here. We're going to be moving to somewhere where we will not have a pillar next time you are here. It's always one of my great pleasures to welcome people to this particular meeting and to have the opportunity to hear from 5 outstanding young Americans who invariably inspire us in so many ways. And this is part of one of my favorite, and I'm not supposed to admit such things, but it's true, one of my favorite programs here at Aspen. We have more than 30 policy programs at Aspen, but the Center for Native American Youth is special in so many ways. And it really is a perfect program for Aspen because at heart, Aspen is an institution about leadership and it's an institution about values. And what the Center for Native American Youth does is focus on outstanding young champions, outstanding young Native Americans who are an inspiration to those around them and have an opportunity to be an inspiration to people literally everywhere across the country. We try to do this in many contexts at the Institute, but this is one that we are especially excited about. I want to also just say why we have this program. And in many cases, that's a very hard thing to explain. How something evolved, where the idea came from, how we developed it. But in this case, it's actually very simple. And the answer to that is Byron Dorgan. And it was entirely at his inspiration that this program was established. It's really an inspiring story in and of itself. After his long and distinguished career as a public servant in the United States Congress, when he left office, he, like many other members of Congress, had a campaign fund that still had a balance in it. In most cases, those campaign funds are transferred to other campaign funds. But in his case, he wanted to do something different with it. He wanted to apply it to an issue, a problem, a challenge, an opportunity that had animated his career from day one. That he learned about early in his career and he never forgot. And as he left, he wanted to have a long-lasting institution focused on the issues and challenges and opportunities of young Native Americans. So he came to us and he said that he would like to establish the Center for Native American Youth. And Walter Isaacson and I and our colleagues immediately recognized not only how important this was, but how central it really was to everything else we try to do at Aspen. So I just really at this point want to thank again Senator Dorgan, introduce him to speak to you, and tell you all how delighted we are that you're here with us at Aspen. Byron?
Well, Elliot, thank you very, very much. It's really nice to see all of you. I know this is a load-bearing aperture. I've got a construction crew coming in at 3 o'clock to remove that, so don't be in the room when we do it. But you'll be able to see what you want to see here. Thanks for joining us for lunch. And thanks for joining us to celebrate the Center for Native American Youth's Champions for Change program. I want to introduce just a couple of people briefly. Is Allison Benny here? Okay, she's not here yet. She's on our board. I wanted to introduce her. Anita Fine-Day, you're here? Where are you? Okay, well, oh, are you there? And I want to introduce Emily McDonald from Walmart, right over here. You'll hear from her in a moment. The reason I wanted to introduce them, the Casey family group, they have been so important to us. Walmart has been very important to us. Thanks for your support. There's an old Indian proverb that says, tell me a fact, I'll learn it. Tell me a truth, I'll believe it. Tell me a story, and I'll carry it in my heart forever. The Center for Native American Youth is a story. This is a story. Of all the people left behind in America, and there are some in this great country of ours, Native American youth rank right near the top. And I could spend the next hour talking about the troubles, the challenges, the difficulties. We could talk about what persuaded me to do this, teen suicide, lack of education opportunity, all kinds of things. But I'm not going to do that. I mean, these are things we work on every single day. And the Center for Native American Youth is not changing the world in a minute, but we're making the world a better place every day. That's our aspiration. And we do that by working diligently on the things that we know are wrong. But one of the things we do is we have a Champions for Change program. We ask the 550 tribes, Indian tribes across the country, who are the young people out there that are doing inspiring, wonderful, remarkable things that deserve this honor of Champion for Change? And we get nominations from across the country from Indian tribes. And today another 5 have been selected as Champions for Change, making a difference where they live every single day. I want to just tell you one short story. There was a professor at a medical school, and he had a student who was sort of an aggressive student who challenged him all the time about religion. And the student came into the professor at this medical school and said to the professor, "Guess what? This morning I did the first dissection on a cadaver, and I found no soul." And the old professor said, "Oh, really? You found no soul? Well, tell me, did you dissect the brain?" He said, "Oh, we did." He said, "Did you find an idea?" He said, "Did you dissect the heart?" He said, "We did." "Did you find love? Did you dissect the eye? Did you find vision?" And then the student understood. Most of what is most important in our makeup, you and myself and the 5 Champions for Change, isn't something we can write down and describe or detect or find. It's the character of who we are, who we've become. That's what's most important. It's hard for any of us to describe it, isn't it? But these 5 have something very interesting that persuaded others to say, "We watch you. We see your work. We believe that the things you do at your age are making a difference." We have a lot of different things going on. And I'm not going to, usually I introduce them all. I'm going to allow Eric and Danielle to do that, and they'll tell you the specifics about them. But I'm tempted to go through and tell you about the remarkable things each of these young people do, because they truly deserve to be champions for change. Now, we have a busy week for them. We're going to be over at the NCAI convention today, and I'll introduce the 5 of them to the delegates from across the country to the National Congress of American Indians. And I'll be enormously proud to do that. You know, there's a lot of reason to despair. There just is. The only thing that we can change every morning when we get out of bed is our attitude, right? That's the only thing that belongs to us that we can change. That's up to us. And there's, look, I'm a politician. You never sort of outgrow that. So am I concerned these days? Yeah, I am. Sure. But my concerns about whatever is happening in our country means that I get out of bed with an attitude that I'm going to be a part of change. I'm going to be a part of organizing and change. So that's what this is all about, it seems to me, is for us to gather together and under the aegis of this program, Center for Native American Youth, understand that almost anything is possible. That's what these 5 demonstrate. I have, a quenchless hope, an indestructible belief that we're headed towards better times if we make times better. But it doesn't happen just by getting out of bed and watching the morning news. It happens because we're involved. And speaking of involvement, you're going to hear now for the next portion of this program, involvement by 5 people who do remarkable things. And I want to thank all 5 of you. I'm enormously proud of you. I'm going to introduce Ms. McDonald from Walmart Corporation, who has been a funder and been very helpful to us. And Emily, let me introduce you to say a few words, and then I'm going to introduce the people that are going to run the panel discussion of our 5 Champions for Change. Emily McDonald from Walmart.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me today. Walmart is proud to support these amazing young Native leaders you'll be hearing from today. Through our partnership with CNAY, we've been able to help provide opportunities for Native youth across the country through programs like Champions for Change and the CNAY National Native Youth Network. Like all of us here, I'm looking forward to hearing from the 5 champions during the panel session, and to each of them, I'd like to add Walmart's congratulations. Like you, we feel a sense of urgency of the problems reflected in heartbreaking statistics. The statistics that show that the Native American community is facing problems like alcoholism, drug abuse, and teen suicide. And we're all aware of the many Native families who join millions of other Americans across the nation living through hunger and poor nutrition. But while Native American youth are widely affected by these problems, they're also taking a leading role in finding solutions. Solutions our Champions for Change are bringing to their communities. Driving positive change is never easy, seldom quick, but it's always possible when you have people with the talent, the courage, perseverance to make it happen. And these individuals obviously have those qualities. And that makes all of us at Walmart proud and excited to be your partner. As a company with locations in tribal communities across the country, we are committed to strengthening those communities. And what better way than through supporting the next generation of leaders? In 2017, we look forward to continued partnership with CNAY on our core areas of community investment, including job opportunity, relieving hunger, and providing good nutrition. We know that together we can help address some of these critical community needs. Thank you for inviting us here today, and we look forward to an inspiring discussion with our 2017 Champions for Change. Thank you.
Well, Emily, thank you very much. I'm going to introduce now a couple of people. Danielle Finn, who's a Standing Rock Reservation. She's an older woman. The reason I say that, I'm just kidding, is that she was a Champion for Change in 2013. That's 3 whole years ago.
Yeah, I know, that's crazy.
But she is a beautiful Miss Indian World and an extraordinary Champion for Change. And forgive me for ever having said that. You are so young. And she is going to be a part of this discussion with Champions for Change. Then I want to introduce Eric Stegman, who is the staff director of the Center for Native American Youth. I'm enormously pleased that we're able to find him when Aaron Bailey moved on to Minneapolis, but we did a search, we found a terrific director, and Eric is going to introduce the staff, including Josie, who runs the Champions for Change program. This is a great organization, and part of that is because of the work that Eric does every day. Eric Stegman.
Good afternoon. So glad to see such a full room today, and really pleased to be here with you. My name's Eric Stegman. My family's from the Carry the Kettle First Nation up in Saskatchewan, and I can't believe I've been here for a little over a year now. I do definitely want to, before we get into this wonderful discussion, acknowledge our staff, and if they could raise their hand. Josie over there, who runs our Champions program. We've got Teddy with the camera over there. We've got Bettina in the back, who is one of our Newman's Own Fellows. She also has the daunting task of scheduling all of their Hill meetings tomorrow for their lobby day, so that's quite a task. Kara, who is our intern this season. And then Amber Richardson. Are you around here somewhere? Okay, there you are. Great. One of the best parts of taking on this job is I truly did inherit the best team in the world, and it has been a real pleasure. So we're really excited, and it really does make this program as successful as it is. So, but enough about me and others here. We're going to kick this over. I want to have Danielle introduce herself. One of the things we're really excited about this year is this program's been going on for a couple of years now, and so we've got sort of a Champions for Change family, where each new class gets to be part of this amazing new network and family, and Danielle is very much a part of that early family. One of the things that we've kind of started to call folks like Danielle is our elder youth. So she's really more of an elder youth to really help guide these wonderful new 2017 champions through. So I'm going to kick it to Danielle to tell us a little about herself, and then we'll have the champions introduce themselves and have some discussion.
Yeah, so hami ta kyapi chante washte na pe chuzapi na malakota na inowasla itahawahi na lakoya chaje we chakpi shakoan wen imachapi na washituapi Danielle Tashina Fini machapi. So hello my relatives, I greet you with a good heart and a handshake. I am from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. I am Hunkpapa Lakota, Ihanktoan Dakota, Assiniboine, and Métis. And I am very proud to be from Standing Rock. I was a 2014 Champion for Change. Don't worry, I am old. They nicknamed me the Grandma Champion. I'm the Grandma Champion. And, but I'm very happy to be here today. I had just finished my Juris Doctorate degree at the Arizona State University Law School. So, thank you. So I can tell you all that being a Champion for Change has really built the foundation of much of my success, of what I am today, of who I am today, is because of the Center for Native American Youth and all of their important work. And a lot of that has tied over into being Miss Indian World. And for those who don't know who Miss Indian World is, it's the most prestigious title that a Native woman can hold in Indian country. Roughly 1,000 women have competed for this title, and only 33 have been selected. So I'm very honored to be the first from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe this year, and a former champion. So, yeah. Full circle moment right here. So I'm really glad to be here today. I'm really, really excited. So, woo.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Danielle. So I'm going to go ahead and let you meet these folks. It's been kind of a big drum roll. So I'm going to kick it over to Mariah first, and I'm just going to ask each of you, and we'll start with Mariah, what drove you to create the kind of change that you're creating in your community, and if you could tell us a little bit about your story and where you come from. Great.
Okay. Okay, natanaku awawa koma kestoaki nistu amskapipikani ki kainai ki chalagi nopachtutu sitsikiti tapik sakum. Hi, my name is Mariah. I'm Blackfeet and Cherokee, and from the northwest corner of Montana, close to Glacier National Park. Really inspired by a lot of the food sovereignty work that people are doing in indigenous communities around the country, and trying to kind of kick that off by doing cooking shows to get people even more excited about that. So.
Okay. And Nancy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the kind of work that you're doing out in your community?
Hisjay Stongo, Nancy the attorney, Jahajifgados. Hayomi Digdungi Almak Scott, Jajafechidos. Amidoa, Alabama Kwasadi, Momen, Namalegada Nogajoki. Hello, how are you? My name is Nancy the attorney. I am from Okima, Oklahoma. My tribal town is Alabama Kwasadi, and I'm from the Bear Clan. And I'm here because I founded the Youth Enrichment Camp, where I provided a safe environment for other youth around my age to learn more about their culture if they wanted a beginning session about an introduction to who we are as Muskogee people, and if they didn't feel safe just jumping into the culture.
Well, hello, my name is Sam Schimmel. I'm from St. Lawrence Island, Alaska, and Kenai, Alaska. And I've worked with subsistence foods and climate change's effect on our culture relating to youth issues. So.
Hi, my name is Faith Holion, Bilagana Nishle, Nest Eji Bashashin, Gugi Dashanali, and Kiaani Dashache. I'm 17 years old. I'm from Coyote Canyon, New Mexico, and one of my biggest focuses are on teen suicide awareness through youth communication and being there for one another. I've established a I guess like a phrase or a code word for youth called Code Purple, so that's my biggest project right now.
Hello everyone, my name is Carol Francis Jr. People usually call me CJ. I'm from the Passamaquoddy tribe in down East Maine. I'm 15 years old, and my event was called Honoring My Elders, because they're one of my top priorities, healthcare and my elders.
Awesome. Okay, so you're here during a busy time in Washington with the new administration that just came in. What would you guys tell the president and his administration about Native youth and what their priorities should be? Go ahead.
I think it's super important, especially seeing the incredible amount of work that was done with the last administration to reach out to Native communities, especially Native youth, and move forward with that. So recognizing our existence, recognizing the issues at hand, and then communicating with the leaders in our community, the youth in our community, to really work to continue solving a lot of those problems.
I really think education is going to be more important in this administration. I think being a youth is a really great talking point, but I think it's time we do more about it and start making us a greater on the list of priorities. And I really am about pushing for correcting the curriculum. Too many, like I come from Oklahoma. The term Oklahoma is a Choctaw word, and there's people in our state that we're not even given the correct curriculum about the history of Oklahoma. And too many times I've been kicked out of Oklahoma history classes for correcting my teacher on how to pronounce a tribe's name. And I want to see correct curriculum and us a higher priority than just a talking point.
I'd like to see more work in climate change and things like that, but more things on culture and helping us keep our cultures alive. So.
With the last administration, there was a lot of involvement in Native American youth, but I feel like suicide is an issue as well as, it should be as big of an issue as far as even like healthcare. So there needs to be more on teen suicide and mental health issues and treat it just like it would be any other health issue.
I think some of them, like me, of course, the relationship between the federal government and tribes need to be strengthened a whole lot better. Treaties recognized and honored.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So one of the reasons all of you are up here today and really impressed our whole selection committee that helped recognize you as champions for change is the way that you engage your communities. And I was wondering if this is another one to the whole panel. If you could tell some of the new faces in our audience today, what does it mean to effectively engage your colleagues and the different ways that you do it? And you all have a different approach, so we'd love to hear how you reach out to your communities.
I think, as Nancy was mentioning, there's a lot of talk about people wanting to help youth, but without a lot of discussion about the actual policy implementation of what you're going for. Is it education? Is it, youth health care? Is it suicide prevention? There's a lot of discussion about that. And I think in order to effectively assist the demographic that you're trying to, I think that it's super important to reach out to people with the methods that they communicate with. So for young people, that is almost always involving social media and social media platforms and communicating with Indigenous youth, through Facebook or Snapchat, and really getting a lot of that feedback. But the first step is reaching out.
The first step I took was strengthening your supporters. My support system is amazing. I've been blessed. We're a tribe of 80,000 plus, and sometimes you feel like you get lost in your own tribe. And we have an amazing youth services program, and we together, our director's actually here of our youth services program, and she helped us form our own youth council. And we all came together, and it took empowering each other. And so creating that strong support system, because nothing is ever done alone, and I can't even take credit for everything because my parents helped me so much. They're a part of my support system, and my fellow youth council members, they're the best. They're always ready to jump in and do something together, And it's not about an individual, it's about coming together and making a difference. And we remember that as our main priority. It's not who's doing it, it's what we're doing.
Kind of to affect change in my community, what I've done is, like for my indigenous friends and family, I've offered to take them out hunting, taking them out fishing, and taking them out trapping and things like that. But for my non-indigenous friends and community, what I'll do is I'll give talks. Like, for instance, I worked with Brown University on a climate change thing. I gave a talk about the effects on Native peoples and our culture that are coming along with climate change.
I'd say ways that I've engaged with others. I compete in rodeo, and we call it rodeo family. We compete together, and I really started this message among my friends first, Code Purple, and seeing what they thought about it. And really, it's more of youth connecting with other youth through Snapchat and Instagram and things like that, because there's what's called a digital divide, what separates us from those who are older than us, who it's harder. I didn't want to throw it out there like really old, but I mean, it's easier for us to communicate with one another through Snapchat than it is to pick up the phone and call someone. And statistics do show that most kids communicate through social media, and it's easier for us that way.
I agree with Faith. It is easier through social media. It is. I usually use Facebook, Snapchat, all that. So that's usually how I get engaged with others.
Okay. So we'll go into more specific questions, kind of to get to know you all better. So we'll start with Mariah. So Mariah, can you describe food sovereignty and how you are using this knowledge to promote health and wellness in your community?
Okay. Food sovereignty, if you're not familiar with the concept, is the right of people to healthy, affordable, and culturally appropriate food, and the right to define their own food and agricultural systems. For a lot of Native peoples, we've had to deal with the colonization of our foodways, systematic eradication of bison, damming of waterways, and the loss of fish from upstream tribes' diets. The transformation from hunting and gathering communities to farming communities, and then reliance on government rations. A lot of that's been super decimating for our diets and our nutrition. And so it's no surprise that Native peoples are facing sky-high levels of obesity and malnutrition, diabetes, heart disease, different issues like that. But I think something that's often forgotten is that we still have access to a lot of our local foods. We've just forgotten a lot of the practices around preparing them. And so the generational gap from the late 1800s to the 1970s of natives that were raised on rations and commodities has really exacerbated this food preparation problem, where we've forgotten how to butcher and cook a lot of our traditional foods. And so what I've been doing is working on short videos, kind of a cooking show via YouTube, in order to help revitalize this knowledge with our pre-contact foods, the foods that we would have had on this continent prior to Europeans' arrival. But also, obviously, using the modern kitchen, because now we have coffee grinders and stoves and microwaves. So how can we use these foods that are healthy and that our bodies have learned to digest over thousands of years in ways that are modern and delicious?
And I have to say, one of the things that we've been learning a lot in the last couple of days are things like, how much meat did they eat back at Blackfeet before the old days?
The average Blackfeet man consumes 7.5 pounds of bison per day. That's a fun fact.
Yeah, been learning a lot of them, and it's been a lot of fun. So thank you, Mariah. Sam, speaking of hunting, you're really passionate about your subsistence lifestyle and protecting it, especially in the wake of climate change and, you know, a lot of the frontline things you're seeing up in the Northwest and in Alaska. Can you tell us a little bit more, for those who might not know as much about it? What are some of the things that you do to connect other young people with those subsistence ways in your community?
Well, our subsistence ways are somewhat different than the other native ways. Like we're mainly hunting large marine mammals and birds. And I mean, with climate change, you see the disappearing of shore fast ice and other types of ice, which walrus need to calve on, and so their populations are dropping, which is making it harder for us to go hunting for them. And so what I'm trying to do here is go to our senator and ask for a different type of subsidy. Instead of getting like rations, getting things like old boats, older motors, or gasoline, because right now we're having to go farther and farther out into the Bering Sea to get our subsistence foods. But like some of the things that I've also done to engage my community, like I said before, I've offered to take them out hunting, or I've forced them to come hunting with me. Like, come on, you're coming with me. Or taking them out fishing and then taught them how to like prep meat or prep fish. Like my cousins over the summer, they didn't know how to fillet a fish. And so I was teaching them how to smoke fish, how to fillet fish, and how to put our traditional foods up for the winter and for the rest of the year.
Awesome. So we know about your community, but CJ is actually our first champion from the state of Maine. So, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about your community, and can you also tell us why you focus on honoring elders and engaging your peers?
So, my community's small. It's about 2,000 people. So my tribe is split, so it's in 2 different places. On my side, we're just the farthest east you could get in Maine. Surrounded by the ocean, you know, really beautiful scenery. Up on the other reservation, there's about 1,000 people, and they're really surrounded by forests and lakes and stuff. So it's a pretty big difference between them.
And then why do you focus on honoring your elders and engaging your peers?
So my dad used to take me over to the elderly every morning, and they talked to me in my language. So I had a pretty good bond between them, and he always told me they're number one, no matter what. You always respect them. You know, growing up Native, they're always number one. So I thought it'd be neat to do that for them. You know, thank them for everything they've done for us, because they keep all the knowledge with them. You know, the wisdom and everything, and that's huge. And we got to step up and pay attention to them, because once they pass, we can't get that back.
Yeah.
May I add to that?
Yeah.
Like, growing up Indian, we all know we honor our elders. We make sure that they're seated first. We make sure that they eat first. And then when they talk, we make sure that we listen. And so, like that, what I try and do is make sure that we listen to our elders and try and put our kids in front of the elders when they're talking, because a lot of our elders where we are passing on some of that knowledge is lost. Like, my great aunt is one of the last people that knows how to split a walrus hide for making a walrus skin boat. And so, yeah, I like what he's doing. It's very important to make sure that we stay connected to our elders.
Faith, one of the things that really impressed us about the work that you're doing is that at the heart of our work since Senator Dorgan founded our organization has been suicide prevention. And we know what a difficult challenge this is across the country. We thought it was amazing how you were using your rodeo community to tackle this challenge. And for folks out here, and I'm sure there are a couple of them, can you tell us a little bit more about, what is the Indian rodeo community, and how have you been using that to kind of spread that word out there?
Well, I compete in Indian rodeo. I've been competing in rodeo since I was maybe 5 years old. I qualified to my first... Well, how many of you guys know what the Indian National Finals Rodeo is? Yeah, okay, so that helps. It's not like no one. Makes it a little easier. I qualified to the Indian National Finals Rodeo in Las Vegas my first time in the ladies barrel racing, competing against much older competitors when I was 10 years old. So the Indian National Finals has really brought me up, and I've grown up going to these rodeos. I started in New Mexico. I've been to White Swan, Washington, all the way to Sarcee, Alberta, Canada, among the First Nation, the Blackfeet Reservation. A lot of the times people tell me where they're from, and I think like, okay, yeah, I've been to a rodeo there before. I know where that is. So they're my community, and among people competing with me, there's several different kids and also adults competing from different tribes. So they're my family, and I've learned a lot from them, and that's one of the things that I just see affect all of us from different places, all coming together, but it affects each and every one of us.
Yeah. So now Nancy, I've known Nancy for about a year now, and she was a contestant with me at Miss Indian World, so she's my Miss Indian World sister. So I'm so excited she's a champion. But why is your culture so important to you, and how is the youth enrichment camp making a difference among your peers?
I grew up a little bit different than some of my peers. My dad, well, he's biologically my stepdad, but he's raised me since I was about 1. He's actually a chief of one of our ceremonial grounds, and I grew up going with him on weekends. With my mom, we're really involved with her ground, well, her dad's ground. And so if I wasn't at the stomp ground in the weekend, I was at our traditional Creek church. And so I grew up 5 miles out of town too, so I didn't have all the friends, and I didn't have a cell phone, so I had our animals and my parents. and they took us everywhere with them, so if they had business to do, we were down there playing. And but in that, I didn't really realize what I was getting. I was learning all of the values that they were teaching and that they would discuss. And as I kind of grew up a little bit in the school system, I went through a lot of different really bad times with bullying. And what I figured out was that I learned to stop focusing on, like, what are they saying about me? And I was like, if I can make it till Friday, I know I'm going out there for the weekend. I got to look at them. I got to hear them. And I learned that I slowly learned that I began to harness my culture, and it pulled me through really bad times. And I see some of my peers, and they're not as in tune with their culture or have the same opportunities that I had. And I see them going through the same struggles that I went through. And it's really hard because no person's alike. But I seen and I realized what my culture did for me, and I want to give that opportunity to them. They didn't have their parents taking them to the grounds or to their churches every weekend. And I want to give them that opportunity to get in touch with their culture, so I created the Youth Enrichment Camp. And I wanted it to be a fun environment because I targeted 12 to 18, and I wanted it to be fun, something they wanted to come back and do again. And so it was really like a camping trip, and I snuck in all these like culture pieces, like fun facts. I'm really good at that, like fun fact, did you know this? And I had my dad, and again, your support system is so key. It was all voluntary, and I fully funded the first camp with my paycheck, and again, my amazing support system were there to volunteer as adults, and we came together, and they left with so much more knowledge of what they were doing. They weren't just like, I know by looking at that's my tribe. They understood what the game was, what the rules were, why it was created, and to me that was it. And I created the camp to enrich them, but it really enriched me at the same time. And I've seen them more involved in our community. A lot of the little brothers joined our youth council after the camp, and they've been so involved, and they're becoming like key committee people for our youth council, and they're going to start making their changes now and leaving their footprint on what our culture is and how it affects us.
That's great. So Mariah, for those of you who may not have read yet, Mariah just graduated from Columbia University in environmental engineering. It's a huge feat. I wanted to ask you, we all just absolutely fell in love with IndigiKitchen and what you're doing with these videos. And now that you've just finished at Columbia, you've got a lot going for you. Where are you going from here? What do you want to do with IndigiKitchen? What are sort of your next steps?
Let's see. So, just graduated is kind of. I was over a year ago, almost 2 years now. So, I feel like I should be better at adulting by now. But my degree is in environmental engineering, and really, what I wanted to do with that was work a lot more on alternative energy development. Back home, we have a greenhouse that's associated with our college that's run completely off of wind energy, and it raises a lot of native plants in it. So getting involved with that, but right now I'm not using my degree at all, so I feel like that's a little disappointing because I'm cooking, and which is kind of like engineering. Anyway, really focusing on, trying to save the world one way or another, but hopefully getting more involved in the energy aspects of sovereignty in addition to food. Food is simply energy for our bodies. And as Indigenous communities, it's really difficult to assert our sovereignty if we're not able to feed ourselves or power ourselves. And I think that as nations, we need to be working on partnerships to really help each other invest in programs to help ourselves become more sustainable. Sometimes that means a wealthier casino tribe, providing funding for plains tribes that might not have the same access to funds in order for them to put up windmills or solar panels and to power their community and pay that money back without having to go through large banking systems, which are not always beneficial to natives and very often exploitative. So.
Yeah, and going off of that, Sam, how do you convince a young person to, pick up berries or to go hunting instead of playing video games? How do you do that?
Well, usually it's harder to get somebody to go berry picking. As she said, it's very hard.
Very good.
A pun.
Hunting and fishing, it's more of like, oh, look, hunting sometimes a little bit harder because it involves walking and things, but you take them out shooting, and if they like that, then you're like, all right, we're going to go hunting. And then it's another harder step to get them to help clean animals, but it's, you just take them bit by bit up from, hey, come on, let's go shooting, come on, let's go hunting, come on, let's go put this up, come on, let's go smoke fish, let's go berry picking then. Berry picking usually comes last in all of that. It's much harder to get somebody, all right, come on, let's go do this. But, you get them, you find something that they like and then kind of shift them over, oh, you like this? Let's see, do you like this? You bring them, you shift their attention from you like video games, let's go hunting. Kind of like that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Just mostly persistence.
Yeah. I'll go pick berries with you.
CJ, one of the issues that I was really touched by because it was something really personal for me growing up was the issue of bullying that you mentioned in your application. And we saw a lot of this from our youth across the country, and we've been hearing a lot when we're out doing our youth summits in different tribal communities. What are some of the things that you think? Why are Native youth getting bullied, and what are some of the things you think they need to help overcome those issues?
I think racism is a huge one. I think therapy can actually help. You know what I mean? Extensive therapy. That's what helped me. And mentoring, a lot of mentoring programs. So I'm glad I got with the University of Maine 4-H system, mentoring youth. I was so happy. So.
And could you say a little bit more about the 4-H system?
The 4-H system?
Yeah, and how that's kind of been a support system.
They set up different type of camps to mentor the youth. One of them was I Cook, which you teach them nutrition and fitness. Stay away from the pizza and grab a salad. So really, it was an awesome time. It really was.
Yeah, so Faith, why did you decide to start Code Purple? Everyone should know the hashtag Code Purple.
Hashtag Code Purple.
Yep, hashtag. And how do you want to see it grow this year?
I started Code Purple because I lost a friend of mine to suicide, and I was really shaken by it because the night before it happened, he messaged me on Facebook, social media, and he asked what I was doing, like the small talk, nothing like really major, but obviously something was tugging at his heart. Why else would he message me? And we were having a conversation, and out of nowhere, he just said, okay, have a great evening. So I thought I didn't really crossed my mind that it could be something so major, and come to find out the next day he had died by suicide. And I was just like completely shaken by the fact, like, what could I have done? How could I have known? How could he have said something so major was on his mind? And then I started thinking, well, how would he say, Faith, this is what's on my mind, I need help? It's hard for someone to come out and say that this is what I'm thinking, this is how I'm feeling. So I just thought that peer-to-peer, it's a little easier to say things versus peer to counselor or parent or teacher. So, and it's hard to say, you know, what's really your feeling. So if someone says something as simple as, hey, I'm feeling purple, or, you know, just code purple, and then that person would simply know to take time out of their day or whatever to be there for a friend, to be there peer-to-peer, to connect with them. And people don't realize that it's hard to connect with people to say what's really on your mind. So Code Purple is just something that I thought me and my friends could start in our rodeo circle, to be there for one another and to look out for one another as Native American youth, to say, hey, I'm here for you if you need to talk about it, and it's okay to talk about it. I'd like to see Code Purple grow among other natives, because I started it in my Indian rodeo circle and a lot of my friends use it. So far we've saved 5 lives. People have come forward and said, Code Purple, this is what's going on, and we've been there, and we had no idea what was going on in that person's life until they said Code Purple, and they explained it to us then. It was easier for them. So I'd like to see it grow as far as different tribes, different kids, different organizations using it with each other.
Thanks so much, Faith. It's such a great idea, and it was a lot of fun yesterday when we were meeting with all the champions for some of their sessions yesterday, just hearing about all the great ideas to help grow that program out. I'm going to give our sort of last question here up on the panel to Nancy, and then I'll be going over to the audience because we're anxious to hear what you guys have to say. Nancy, one of the things I was really moved by in your areas that you work on and your passion is really for Indigenous women. And I know we had a lot of important conversations about the issues facing Native women in our country, and you're going to be hitting Capitol Hill tomorrow. You're here in our nation's capital meeting with all sorts of officials. What's your message about what we need to do for Native women in Indian country, and what do you hope this new administration should be hearing?
It's simple, really. We need to do more. Too often we're overlooked. I've actually been blessed to be taken under the wing of Shara Giles. She's the board president for the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. And so I get to receive a lot of information of what's going on in DC. What are y'all doing? What are you not doing? And so I've been busy with the Center for Native American Youth this week, and she's been busy here lobbying for what's going on for our Indigenous women. And I'm actually really proud to say, because it's really hard to get your senators and people involved in your issues. But I'm actually really proud to say that our senator from Oklahoma, Senator Langford, has actually co-sponsored the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Day. And so I look forward to meeting with him tomorrow and asking him, that's a great step, but what's our next step? What are we going to do to do more? Violence Against Women Act is coming back up in 2018. Let's make some changes, and let's make changes for the better. Let's not limit what we're doing for our Indian women. Let's push it forward.
Fantastic. Before we kick it over to the audience, I'm going to ask one general question for any of you, because I know it's probably on a lot of folks' minds. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Standing Rock, and I'm sure a lot of the folks here in the audience have been following a lot of what's been going on with that, but I'm not sure as many people understand it from the youth perspective and why this is so important. Oh, look, we've even got a sign back there. So I'm going to just ask for anyone who wants to respond, can you tell us why this has been so important for Native American youth?
Well, this issue in Standing Rock, there's been a lot of Native American issues in the past, but in my lifetime, I guess it's only it's not that long, but I've never seen something that's so involved with others, engaged non-Native American people to what's going on in Native American issues. So many, even like celebrities are out there, and that's what's really amazed me, is that we're drawing attention to Native country. It's not just Native people there. We're drawing eyes from different people across the world, and that's what's really moved me.
I think that Standing Rock has created a movement, and what it's done is opened that door and opened that conversation for what else is going on in Indian country that the rest of the world don't know about. What else is, being harmful, and with this movement, we're having these conversations now. Why are you desecrating these sacred sites? Why were our people, specifically for our tribe at Hickory Ground, why were they dug up and moved for a casino? These questions are now being validated. And they're like, okay, these are issues. And if it wasn't for Standing Rock and this movement and their youth creating the movement, these questions wouldn't be being asked right now, or even being talked about, or trying to be solved.
I think it's a open warning to developers and especially oil and gas companies that they had better consult with tribes before they start construction, because they do not want to be the bad guy in another Standing Rock. They do not want that press coverage. So I'd say that this is a very good example to learn for, developers thinking of building casinos, building pipelines, drilling. It's a very good opportunity to move forward, because Indian nations have come together, allies have come together, international banks are divesting, cities are pulling out from people that are funding these projects, and I really hope that other entities see it as an example, because they do not want that bad press.
Anyone else before we move on? All right, well, I'm going to kick it over to the audience to get your questions for this awesome panel of our young leaders. If you could just raise your hand, and do we have a separate mic yet? Bettina's got a mic back there. If you could just tell us who you are and who you represent before you ask your question, that would be great. Anyone have one over here?
Hi, sorry, let me set my drink down. I'm Diana. I'm not away from Virginia. I work at the Administration for Native Americans. And as I was listening to you all, first of all, thank you all so much for the work that you do. We cannot applaud you enough for what you guys have done. But I think if there's one thing Native people do really well, it's partnering with each other and supporting each other's rise. And I think as I heard you talking Code Purple, I'm like, we could do that everywhere today. Yeah. And like with IndigiKitchen, how can I support you to get followers? What can I do to get people like paying attention to what you're doing? So like for the rest of us in the room who may have resources or contacts, what supports do you need for your projects or your dreams to continue to be successful?
Code Purple is something that I just want to spread out. I mean, I've started it among my rodeo community, and I've applied for the CNAY recognition to have a good avenue to further expand Code Purple. I just want to get it out there, and I want to speak to kids, speak to youth, to let them know that it's okay. I mean, in my world, people think that I haven't made. They think that I'm currently the Indian National Finals reigning breakaway world champion. So people think that it's easy for me, but I'm 17. I've been bullied. I struggle with things like that. And I want people to know, kids to know that it's okay. And I just want to further expand my message. So any way that you might be able to help me do that, that would be amazing.
Anyone else on that one?
If you want to send me your recipes. Always trying to look for grants to do more episodes, do that, but really just interested in collecting recipes from people's, traditional foods. What did you use? How did you cook it? I'm looking for a good squirrel recipe that's not boiled. But really, that's, I mean, it's about connecting, this network of indigenous people we have all over, and then, reminding people that our ancestors were eating healthy and they were active. And, if you don't know what your ancestors were eating, I suggest you look into it because it's pretty good.
All right, maybe we'll go to another question here. Oh, we've got one over here. Yep.
Dan Leverance. I'm from the Iowa tribe of Kansas and Nebraska, and I'm an attorney at the U.S. Department of the Interior. My question's for Mariah, and for people who live on or around their traditional communities, their reservations, many of them may have access to traditional foods, to bison, to wild rice, but 2/3 of tribal members today live away from their tribal communities, and that's reflected in the statistics in the back of your book. Even the surveys that CNAY has done, Native youth show that. So for people like the Indians in this room who may live in the DC area, what are your recommendations for them to locate and make use of the type of food that you work with in your tribal community?
Great question. I think the issue of a lot of the problems that I've been talking about, especially with regards to obesity and malnutrition, are especially exacerbated in food deserts, which most of our reservations are classified as. In metropolitan areas and cities, we're lucky that there are a large number of grocery stores that people can go to and buy fresh fruits and vegetables. My own reservation in northwest Montana is about the size of Delaware and has 2 grocery stores on it, and they're both about a mile apart. So that brings into issue a lot of other complications just with getting access to food. I'm hoping that people that are in the city are close enough to grocery stores to get access to food through that means. But it is always important for us to remember to try to, get processed foods out of our diet and be consuming real foods. Native peoples, we've had about 200 years. For some East Coast tribes, it's been longer. For some West Coast tribes, it's been less. To try for our bodies to learn to digest things like wheat and sugar and dairy and, a lot of these foods that are staples in the American diet that have been introduced. So it's a matter of figuring out what our bodies can handle and where to find those things. And for people living in cities, hopefully you can find real food in your grocery stores. But for people in reservation communities, sometimes that's more difficult because of this food desert status. So it's about using the resources we have.
Another question?
Hi, my name is Ruth Flower. I'm a lobbyist with a nonprofit faith-based organization here in town, and I will put in just a little plug. We are hiring right now for a congressional advocate on Native American affairs. I'd love to hire all of you. Some brochures.
I'm looking.
But my question is, Congress is not a very popular body. They rate somewhere close to lawyers on the scale of popularity, I think. I don't know who's first or second. And you're all going to Congress tomorrow, and I think that's great. What do you think it would take to get Congress to move in a more positive direction and faster on Native American issues?
Okay, so again, I come from Oklahoma, formerly known as Indian Territory, formerly known as the West, and I think we need to remind our representatives who they represent. We house over 300 different tribes in our state, and we need to remind them, you're representing us. We're Indian people, and we still live there. We were removed to be put there. You shouldn't forget that. And we have issues, we have problems coming up, and you can't look past us anymore. Our tribal government as a whole in the state of Oklahoma, we provide work for over 60% of the state, whether that's in casinos, tribal government positions within our programs. You can't overlook the fact that we're employing not just tribal people, 60% of the state. So we can't be looked over anymore. If we're helping fund the state, you need to help fund our problems and help us find solutions.
I think this kind of ties into what I was talking about, lessons that can be taken from Standing Rock. Indians are not thought of as a huge voting bloc. We're less than 1% of the population. And so a lot of senators and our representatives think that they can ignore Native issues because of that. I think there's a lot of momentum in Indian country right now and a lot of momentum in the country at large. And I think Indians have the potential to be very loud and to exploit our connections with allies to gain that traction and to remind people, don't make the Indians mad because all their allies are going to be mad and they will vote against you. So focus on Indian issues.
Maybe one more? Maybe two more. We'll do two more questions. Or where's Bettina? Oh, we go. All right, 2 to 3 here. Okay.
God, Dawadua, G-Squaw, Yonega, Brian Barlow, Tahlequah, Oklahoma, DGNA. Hello, my name is Brian Barlow. I'm from Tahlequah, Oklahoma. Shout out to my Oklahomie. And to my Cherokee. My question is for Mariah that, as someone who did leave Oklahoma to go to school, like you went to Columbia, I went here to GW, and coming back to my tribe and seeing first things first that's happening is they're putting up a brand new big casino in my hometown and talking about food sovereignty and learning about things like that. How can we convince our tribes that, casinos aren't the only way to make money? That, we can invest in agriculture, that we can invest in creating sustainable food systems in our communities, and that can be more than just a way to survive, but it can be a way to thrive.
I think Shakopee, Mdewakanton?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, said that word right. Up in Minnesota, close to Minneapolis, has provided a super great example of how food sovereignty can be done on a really productive scale. They have a community farm there that covers, I think, at least 3 acres, and they harvest traditional foods but also some introduced foods, and they've gotten themselves USDA certified and are marketing to the Minneapolis school district. So they're selling those products that are grown on the reservation to the school system, which not only is that cutting down on transportation costs, but that is a direct source of income for the tribe, and it's employing tribal members. So I think that we should probably go talk to our Cherokee folks about doing some of that stuff as well, because we're fortunate in that we're close enough to a population center to, be able to put up a casino that's going to get some outside income. But for my Blackfeet reservation, there's not enough people in Montana to fund a large-scale casino project. It ends up feeding off of its own community, and that's not helpful. So farming that can be marketed off the reservation, super helpful.
Great. Well, unfortunately, we're at the end of our time here, but I want to ask everyone to give another big round of applause to our champions.
Thank you very much. Well, what a discussion by some remarkable young people, and thank you very much. Congratulations. Tomorrow evening, all of you here are invited to a reception at the Washington Hilton at 5 o'clock. We will have 7.5 pounds of bison for every meal that shows up, right? We'll have some food, and you'll enjoy it, and we'll have a program there, and you'll hear a little more from these remarkable people. Let me tell you one final story as we leave, and as you can tell, this is all about attitude, isn't it? It's about waking up in the morning and you want to change the world, change your life, at least change your circumstances somehow. I was at Josie and I were at the Pine Ridge Reservation, and we were sitting around having a discussion with high school students, Native American high school students, and just talking about the things they face. And the one young man said to us, He said, I and my friend won the regional competition in our regional wrestling tournament. And he said, so we were invited to go to the state tournament in Rapid City. But our school didn't have any money for us to go to the state tournament. So our wrestling coach, he said, told us, no, we're going to get you to the state tournament. He said, my wrestling coach said, I'm going to drive you there. And he did. And as they were going to the wrestling tournament, the wrestling coach showed these two young men that he had just purchased them new uniforms from his own pocket. And they didn't have any money, so they slept on the gymnasium floor where the state wrestling tournament was being held. Slept on the floor of the gymnasium. And I said to these young men, how did you feel about that? And he said, well, it's not about where I slept, it's about what I accomplished. They did, after all, acknowledge he was a winner of the regional event. And I thought about that a lot. This young kid sleeping on the gymnasium floor as a regional winner with his coach, a hero who decided, we're going to the tournament. You deserve that. There are so many wonderful stories that bring tears to your eyes, right? So many wonderful people that inspire me. When I go to bed tonight, I'll lay there and think about you five and what you're doing to make this planet a better place. There's no place else for us to go. We're all neighbors on the same spot of ground, planet Earth. And boy, you five are going to make you've already made a difference, and you're going to make a bigger difference because you're committing your life to those kinds of things. So thank you very much. Come to the event tomorrow night, 5 o'clock. Thank you very much.
So they're going to want to do like a group photo of all of us.